Welcome. It's good to see everybody here. And do we know how to create the environment for a captive audience or what? So we sent out our very best greeting from Virginia Beach. So now you all are here and you can't leave. How perfect is that? So welcome to the convention. It's a wonderful thing. I want to brag for just a minute on some of our student leaders, our NSLC, a couple of our RSAs, our convention staff members. As soon as we told them about the alert, it was probably 5 minutes from the time we saw the alert come across the warning from the weather report until all of the students were from the library auditorium all the way in this room, which I think is pretty good for an emergency response team, don't you? So I think they did an outstanding job. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Coaches, thank you for being here. Student leaders, emerging leaders, thank you for being here. It is so fun to have you here. And I just think it is perfect that at the very time that the storm is going by us, the very best place for us to be on this campus is in this room. How perfect is that? This is where we already wanted to be. So we're thrilled about it. So just enjoy the rest of your time here, and we will keep you alerted. I know a lot of you are staying in touch as well, and some of you are helping us stay informed. Thank you for that. But for now, we're going to continue because it seems like the very best thing to do. So it is my privilege not only to welcome you to the National Convention, but also to welcome our speaker for this evening. He is not new to the ICC. Many of you in the room have met and heard from Scott Wilcher before this, but I want to tell you just a little bit about him. Not only is he an author, and if you haven't yet read The Orphan Generation, you so must do that. We will have those books in the next couple of days. They'll be here in our bookstore, but you need to pick that up. In fact, not only do you need to pick that up, coaches, you need to get copies. In fact, we have a special this week so you can take multiple copies at a real discount back to your chapter. Your chapter parents need to read it. It is a great way to help us think about how do we best connect with the next generation, and how do we help turn their hearts toward the things of God, and how do we take on the mind of Christ. He's helped me so much in this way. The way that we are talking about ourselves as a culture is that we are a family. And we're learning more and more about what this means. I was thinking a lot about family on the way to this convention, and I was thinking about this experience. I had a friend growing up who had a family member she had never met, and she had this yearning to meet them. And I didn't understand that because I knew everybody in my family. I was with them all. I was glad most of the time I was with them. Some of the times I wished I wasn't with them. And maybe some of you have thought that. But I didn't ever have that feeling that there were family members I hadn't met yet. And I learned a lot from my friend about that. And I've learned a lot by thinking about ICC that way, that there are a lot of family members we haven't met yet. And they just don't know that they're part of our family. This is definitely one of those people in my life. 3 years ago, we began our doctoral studies program together here at Regent University. We ended up in the same study group, and I learned a whole lot from him. One of the things that I learned was that the words that I say something about how I'm thinking about my situation and life and you and the people I'm talking to. And he taught me to think about that a little bit more carefully. One of the things that he did is have you ever had a classmate, have you ever been in a study group or had a classmate who always just kind of, I don't know, mixed things up a little bit or added a little trouble to the class? Okay, trouble might not be the right word, but it might be the right word. So anyway, he sometimes did bring trouble because he just likes to have a good time and he likes to make everybody think. And I've appreciated that so much about him. I've also appreciated that not only is he a pastor and a consultant to churches and a youth minister and clearly has a pastor's heart, and he's an amazing author and a talented speaker, but he's become my friend. He's the newest board member of the Institute for the Cultural Communicators, and he's been such a good friend to ICC, to you, and to me. So would you please give all of the attention that you have this evening to our very good friend and family member, Scott Wilcher.
When Mrs. Moon talks about me causing trouble, what she means is I made my classmates cry. I don't want to make you cry tonight. Promise. What I want to do tonight is sort of set the stage for the rest of the week. And I want you to understand that the first responsibility of a leader is not to provide a vision. The first responsibility of a leader is to define reality right now. And out of that reality, the vision is fueled. But you have to know where you are right now as a group. And that's what I want to begin to talk to you about tonight. And I want to start with a story. How many of you were here 3 years ago? Excellent. You may well have heard this story. How many of you are here for the first time at a convention? Good. Okay. Yeah. This is my third convention. I don't have a t-shirt yet. Hint, hint, hint. Don't feel slighted. But what I want to tell you this story. I was in my mother's childhood home that she has not lived in forever, but we had gone back to Pennsylvania, right on Highway 1, outside of Nottingham, where the Hearst potato chip plant is. And we were all gathered on a Sunday afternoon after a wedding that one of my cousins had been married. And we were just gathered, just telling stories in one of my favorite rooms in the world, big, giant family room. And everybody's just telling stories and laughing and remembering family. And the younger ones are listening and sort of hearing their heritage. And the older ones are remembering their youth. And it was great fun for everybody. And about mid-afternoon, one of my younger cousins comes running in and says, "There's an old man at the door." And one of my bigger cousins then went to check on it because it's out in the boonies. There's nobody there, just a big farm. And if people show up, they're either lost in trouble or they're looking for trouble. And so we waited, and my larger cousin comes in, and behind him there's this little tiny bent over man. He comes in, he waddles through the house, and we're all not scared anymore because he's an old man and he's not going to attack us or anything, but we're irritated with him because he's interrupted our fun time. And he comes in, and he just comes in quietly in the middle of the room, and nobody says anything, and it's just awkward, it's weird. And we're vaguely irritated. And he looks around the room, takes his time, and he sees my mom, and he says, "Hello, Ann." And then he sees my aunt, and he says, "Hello, Louise." And my mom jumps up and runs and says, "Bud!" And it turns out this little old man is her cousin, Bud. And I experienced in that moment an amazing shift, because the stranger in our midst is now family. And our irritation switched to joy. And instead of hoping he would just go on and go away, we got him a chair. And we got his wife in out of the car. She was even older than he was. And we got her in, and we sat down, and they joined in, and they told stories, and we began to realize, or I realized in that moment, that they had not changed. They were who they were when he walked in. But in my mind, he changed from being an irritating stranger to being a beloved cousin, part of my family, who shared my heritage and my values, and even shared a common link to the property that we were on. And what I hope to do this tonight, and what I hope happens the rest of the week, is that you get to experience that, and you get to help someone else experience that. So let's talk about reality for ICC. Because our heritage comes from way back in the day when Abraham had a son named Isaac and he had a son named Jacob. And Jacob's name was later changed to Israel. And so when we talk about Israel, Israel is not a nation. Israel is a man. And all of his descendants are Israel. And Israel had 12 sons, and those 12 sons had lots of kids, and they became the 12 tribes of Israel. All of those tribes are family. And so when the Jews leave Egypt, and they're leaving their captivity, and the chariots are coming after them, they know that everybody going with them in that group is family. And they're going to watch out for each other. They grumble, they complain, they have issues. Yes, welcome to family. But they knew they were for one another. And everybody was family. And so they established their home in the boundaries of the land that God gave them, which is Israel, the nation, or the land. And that land is not a political state in their minds. It is family land. It's their home that God gave them. And the temple in Jerusalem is the place where they worship the God who chose them as the chosen people. And that place is there where they gather for festivals and all that fun stuff. It's home for them. It's not just a political home. It's family home. And so all of that's rolling along, and all the Jews are thinking, we're family, and we're sons of Abraham, we're sons of Israel, we're family. And then Jesus shows up and messes with their heads. And what Jesus did was he said, or John said, my Father could make sons of Abraham from these stones. That'll get your head cut off. And Jesus says to them things like, where is my family? Are not these my family? Are not all who follow God my family? And he said, and if you leave your family for my sake, family will be restored to you 100 times in this age and in the next. And Jesus talked about God as Father, which the Jews didn't do, because that was too intimate a relationship to be talking about the great I am. For God, it was Father, Abba. And he changed their mindset about the temple. No longer is the temple their family gathering place. The temple is now the them. And he changed the land as a boundaried set of land to the ends of the earth. And he changed their perceptions about Greek and Jew. Because for the Jews saw family as us. And Gentiles were them. And Samaritans were worse than them. And there was a very strong sense of us. And what we want to create this week is a very strong sense of us in this group. Except what Jesus did was he messed with that. And he said, there is no Greek or Jew. There is no male or female. We are all one in Christ. And so when Paul goes out, he's not thinking, oh, I can't preach to the Samaritans. He's not thinking, I can't preach to a Roman centurion. He sees the entire world not as us and them, but as us and potentially us. And that changed everything. Because there was no longer this imaginary barrier between people, because they were family. And there was no longer this barrier between them and those who didn't know Christ yet, because they could know Christ. And who's to say they may not know Christ because we move toward them? And so on a level that we don't fully understand, I want to say to you very clearly, we're family. That this week I can look at you and go, hello, Katie. hello, Jill. Hello, Wendell. Hello, John. And you can look at everybody else and say, hello, and think, we're family. And some of you come here thinking, my mom made me come and I don't really want to be here, and I'm going to have to just make this not a very happy time. And some of you are here very intimidated by, when Katie talks, I'm just intimidated because she's so articulate. And you have all these little feelings about who your people are. And these are, I'm in with the RSAs, and I'm with this group, and I'm part of this group, and I'm an apprentice, and I have this acronym and that acronym. And we all have our little place that we fit. And I want to say to you, what if this week coaches and students and everybody began to think, no, we're family. Jesus' prayer was that we would be one, as he was one with the Father. And I just want to ask you, will you intentionally participate with us and begin to think differently about that person? Because you'll see some people, like Jake and I are like hair twins. It's amazing. It's the same exact hair. Mine's just older. And so if I look at Jake and think, oh, he's so cool, and I'm just not. I'm sorry, did I say Josh? I said Jake, sorry. Okay, he's leaving. There's a tornado, stay in here. Sorry. Forgive me. If I'm intimidated by anyone in this room, that melts away when I begin to realize, no, that's my brother. That's my sister. And if I have an agenda where it's like, she's cute, I'd like to meet her. That melts away. That melts away when my wife talks to me. But for a younger man who is single, that melts away because Scripture is clear that we're to treat younger women as sisters. And if she's my sister, I see her differently. She's family. I guard her. I don't use her. And so everything changes if you will step into this and begin to understand not just wordplay that Scott wants us to sort of play this word game where we're going to do this, but to really understand the spiritual reality that we are brethren. That we share a Father. And it's really good and valuable. So what? So this week, I would just remind you that Paul in Galatians says that our identity has changed. And if we're to define the reality of our lives, Paul in Galatians 3 says, we used to be prisoners to sin. Hear that. That's a metaphor. We used to be prisoners to sin. But then we were students under the law. But now, our reality is we are children of God. And that changes everything for us in our relationship with the Father and in our relationship with each other. And so, brothers and sisters, in a very literal sense, brothers and sisters, welcome to Virginia Beach. Welcome to the ICC convention. And I am delighted to be here with you. God bless you all this week.